Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Warren from the Rhapsody Piano Studio. I want to welcome you to today's live lesson. This is going to be I'm a Believer for Easy Piano. I'm going to be teaching you how to play and practice this on piano. Quick thing before we get started, if you want to catch whenever I go live on these live streams, and also if you want to get notified of when my tutorials come out as well, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, okay? All right, this is I'm a Believer. So, I just played the intro. That's the first part of this process. I'm going to show you on how to practice this song or any song at any level, at whatever genre or anything that you're playing, and pretty much any piece of music, any song. Okay, you want to pick the first part that you can manage. So it was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, off the top of my head, it looks like about 5 measures. And then you notice I stopped one note into the next part. Okay, because if you don't do that, you're gonna have to practice connecting one measure to the next. If you just go a little bit into the next measure, that's a little secret. You just kind of automatically connect that. Okay. Let me get that chair out the way. Okay. Now I'm gonna break it down on the left hand. This one you're gonna want to practice way slower. It goes kind of fast. I love that little guitar riff, right? If you're this, I think it's really difficult to practice with and play with the pinky and fourth finger. You can go ahead if you want, but if I were you, I might just switch the finger numbers there, right? To either a 4-3 or a 3-2. Makes it a lot easier to manage, especially that one. It's not really easy to play with the 5-4, but I can do it because I've been at this for a long time, obviously. All right, so that's just the first step. Again, you want to pick the smallest part that you can manage. And if necessary, you practice hands as separate. You kind of simplify it. But here, it's just kind of thirds going down. I don't think it's necessary to really practice this part hands separate, okay? So that's all that's going on in the right hand. Okay, so I'm gonna play. What was that? I'm gonna play for you one more time. I'm gonna take it a lot slower. Okay, sorry. Sometimes I go a little bit fast for you people who are trying to follow along. I know I should be a little bit more understanding about that. My apologies. By the way, if I am going too fast at any one of these parts, you can always hit the playback speed on the videos. You can change the speed on any one of these lessons, any one of these tutorials that I have. Also, pretty much any video that you watch on YouTube. Okay, don't know if you know that, but you know it now. Okay, so I'm gonna play for you one more time. Now we're gonna try it together. Ready, go. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with the next part. We're going to pick the next smallest part. Okay, so that's about what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 measures in, 8 measures. If that's kind of too much for you, you can even do 4 measures at a time from. Okay, so you can even split it up to that level, but for the sake of this live stream, to kind of save a little bit of time as well, we're gonna try about 8 measures at a time, okay? Not too much going on the left hand. I think you can totally handle it, okay? So left hand, here, we're just going to separate it. So I want to show you the notes in the left hand, the bass that it's playing. Not necessarily to really count these, okay? They're all whole notes, right? But if you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, when you do both hands together, you're gonna get the rhythm. So in my opinion, don't count these in the left hand, kind of waste of time. So it's just, these are the notes. And then here, you kind of think of it, if we're playing together like that. So basically only 3 different positions you need to kind of practice. And then when we get to Love Was Out to Get Me. New harmony, right? So let me show you one more time. Okay, so we play it. Then here. That. So that might be really the only measure you need to practice in the left hand, just to get the rhythm. Okay, and then we just go to the right hand. Okay, so we're gonna try that together and then go back to both hands. All right, right hand, ready, go. Hi, Morgan, how are you doing today? All right, now we'll go back to both hands. We'll go a lot slower. Ready, go. School, huh? Hope they're not giving you too much homework. All right, let's keep going to the next part. Love Was Out to Get Me. Okay, let's break down the left hand again. Again, you don't need to do the counting for the whole entire whole notes, right? I'm just show you the different positions in the left hand that we go through. So that's basically it. It's just going between G major and D major. All right, and then you can just practice this last transition. Right, so from dreams to then I saw her face, right? So let's just practice this part. Let me show you one more time. Alright, little thing when you're practicing where you're doing repeated notes on one with one finger, and more than anything is you're gonna be using your wrist. Okay, so it's like bouncing a basketball up and down, aka dribbling, right? There's a lot of people tighten up in the wrist, that's why they can't get a lot of good repetitions. Okay? Keep the wrist loose, kind of shake it right here, and then make sure not all your other body parts are like flailing about, right? Here, even if you want to use a 4, that might be a little bit difficult with the 4th finger. You can substitute a 3. And that kind of makes it trickier, right? Anyway, I'm just doing a 4, okay? So let me show you one more time. We'll try it together a lot slower. Ready, go. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now the right hand. Try that together. Ready, go. Okay, back to both hands. We're gonna slow it down. Ready, go. So I'm gonna show you the last step of this process. Okay, so we're doing small parts at a time, and a question is like, when do you need to put it together, you know, into bigger sections? And it's kind of personal, right? But you know, every song you play, the structure, the form is gonna be a little bit different, right? Like this is a pop song, rock song. It's gonna be different than a jazz and a classical. So it really depends on the type of music you're playing. Okay, but to me, I do want to go back, and now we're gonna put these sections together. So we got about like 3 sections here. We had the intro and then the first part of that verse before we hit the chorus, okay? So I'm gonna go back to the beginning and listen to this entire section now. put it together and then slowly build up larger sections, because part of it is getting used to this way of practicing, which is a correct way of practicing. If you have a better way, then go ahead, right? But the other thing too is like you have to build concentration. So the reason why you need to do small parts at a time, and the reason why you don't want to practice the whole song from beginning to end, of course this depends on what level of music you are playing, what level you are at, because it's just not a good way to practice. Because most students, it's just for the fact of like you haven't been taught any better, right? Like how do you practice? If you've never been taught how to practice, this video that you're watching is probably the first video to show you actually how to practice. So you need to do small parts at a time. You need to build up that concentration, because if you do the whole song, there's a lot of other reasons, but you can make a lot of mistakes and you kind of lose your focus after a while, right? Because if you're not able to read for a long time, I wouldn't suggest, taking a book that's like 500 pages and trying to read it at one sitting, right? You would do like 10 pages at a time, and then that gets easier 20 pages. So you got to build up your concentration. So that's part of practicing like this, okay? All right, so the left hand, and you can review these sections. Again, not necessary to play it like all the way from the beginning to that part that we did, right? You can just kind of quickly review. All right, and going through these notes. Okay, so you don't have to be exact with what they're showing you here. And then the next section, kind of slowly just building that connection, like all the sections together. Yeah, and it's also kind of like a mental thing. Now you're mentally preparing yourself to play the whole thing, right? Okay, so yeah, so just again going through roughly, the left hand, quickly browsing through and saying, okay, this is gonna happen here and here and here. It's just mentally preparing yourself, okay? Then we go back to the right hand. Just review this in the beginning. I don't think it's really necessary to practice so much unless you need it. Okay, so it sounds like three blind mice for some reason. Okay, and then here we will play the whole entire melody. I think this is a good thing to practice. Okay, so let me show you the melody, this entire section. Okay, and we try it together. And then other thing too is usually there's more notes in the right hand, hence that's why it's a little bit more difficult, okay? But that doesn't mean not to practice your left hand as much, right? Okay, I thought love was only true. Here we go, right hand, ready. We'll take slower, ready, go. Okay, so I hope this whole thing is making sense for you guys, and that's like the last step of this process, just figuring out where to put it into larger sections, and then from there it's just kind of little nuances and little details. Of course, stick with me with this lesson, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, okay? All right, now we're gonna do both hands from the very beginning. Try it together, taking it very, very slowly. Okay, 1, 2, ready, go. is you gotta be patient. Be really patient with this process because first of all, it's getting used to practicing this way, and then secondly, there's only so much time you have to practice in a day, so you kind of have to pick and choose your battles, right? So definitely not a good idea to say I'm gonna practice the whole entire song unless you have enough time for it. Like depending on what level you're at, maybe anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, okay? But if you only have like 20, 30 minutes to practice, I would say, just one section a day, right? And you don't necessarily have to practice the same entire section every single day. Like certain days, maybe you can just say, okay, I'm gonna do the first 2 pages here, maybe and then the next day I'll do the next 2 pages. All right, now it's time to go back to the first 2 pages. You really have to think a bit carefully. The more you plan out in detail, the better your results will be, okay? All right, now I'm just going to give you the entire chorus, okay? A little bit longer section here. But yeah, it's just, I just want to play the whole chorus for you guys, right? That's on one level. The second reason I'm doing this is kind of giving you a target to hit, right? When you get comfortable, whatever sections you're practicing at, like 4 measures, when you get super comfortable with it, and if it's easy, don't stay there. Don't stay in your comfort zone. Then think, okay, next time, all right, I want to challenge myself. I'm gonna do larger sections, longer sections here, right? Okay, so here is the chorus. There's a repeat there. I'm gonna skip that. We're gonna keep going, okay? Now something to keep in mind, there's a little typo, in my opinion, on leave her if I tried. It should be a C major. It just doesn't make sense with that sharp. So there should be a natural in at least in this arrangement. That's the word I'm looking for. Arrangement. At least in this arrangement that I'm practicing, okay? All right, let's go through just the left hand. Again, not necessary to practice the whole entire thing unless you want to, right? And then that little transition at the end, right? Kind of like the beginning, right? It comes back, so you might want to practice that part a little bit again. Basically, just going through the basic positions in the left hand. We have these notes. We have this. Transition, a little rhythm, okay? But it's the same thing. Then we have a lot of rests here. Remember, C natural, and then. Alright, so, in case you want to just hear this whole section, I might as well just give it to you, okay? Here's your left hand. So I guess you could try that with me. Left hand, so that's our face, starting on face. Ready, go. Sometimes the benefit is, even though it's not super complicated, you might want to still do hand separate practice just for the sake of practicing rhythm, right? Because a lot of parts are missing. When you don't have the other parts together, it's kind of harder to count because the other, right hand, left hand, whatever it is, kind of fills in the spots for you, right? Okay, so here's just the right hand now. Okay, let's try that together. Right hand, ready, go, face. And then back to both hands. Trying it together, nice and slow. Face from the chorus, ready, go. Sorry, there's about 2 wrong notes there. Just ignore that. Also want to keep, just segueing into this, I guess. Another thing to keep in mind, you don't have to be such a perfectionist when it comes to this. It is a good goal. Of course, when you're practicing, you want to go for accuracy as much as possible. But as long as you remember to come back to certain sections, you don't have to be like 100% accurate all the time, okay? All right, now the next little transitions part's fun to play. Okay, so everything's basically in unison. You might as well just practice both hands together here. Okay, let me give it to you a lot slower now. And remember what I was saying about those repeated notes, making sure the wrist is nice and loose. Definitely a really good place to practice hand separate, okay? All right, so let's just try that together. Ready, go. All right, and then I guess if you wanted, you can put it together from the chorus. So it's just basically building up bigger sections again, going back to that main point. All right, so I just want to ask you guys if you've enjoyed this lesson so far. We're definitely not done yet. I have a lot more things I'm going to show you before we end the lesson. If you've enjoyed this lesson, if it's been valuable for you, if you're getting a hang of this, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not getting a hang of this, just, it's not the end of the world. Just, watch a lot of other of my, lessons that I have. I have tons of these videos and I'm always coming out with these. So you could always jump in on the next lesson and review these concepts because it's just, that's all my lessons are about too. And then of course I am a private teacher. I do this in real life. This is the way I practice with my students. I show them how to practice this at the lesson. And then they go home and then they study the tutorials, right? That's my next point with the tutorials. You want to think of this this live lesson that I'm showing you here, step-by-step practice steps. A lot of steps, right? So how to practice correctly, how to learn correctly. And then when you get a good handle on this, if you feel like you're really internalizing and understanding these principles on how to practice that I'm showing you here, then you click on over to the tutorial. The tutorial is available in the link as well. Each one of these lessons I do, I have a accompanying video with it where you can kind of hear the whole entire song. You're going to be able to teach yourself without any of these instructions, okay? And that's a really good sign you're understanding these principles. And when you get to that point, you can practice any of the tutorials that I have on my channel, okay? And the other thing too, remember to pick up a copy of the sheet music as well, okay? And if you need to know, if you don't know how to read sheet music, by the way, just hit up my resources as well. I have lots of things to show you how to correctly read notes and learn to read notes and also to learn to play and read sheet music. It's not that hard, it just takes a lot of time, okay? All right, let me show you the, we're gonna go to the Coda, all right? A couple things I want to tell you before we do that, by the way. Where we ended, you see it says DS Al Coda. If this is your first time seeing that, that basically means you go back to the beginning. Sometimes it's on the first page, but you kind of have to look for it. Yeah, it looks like it's on the first page, where there's a little S weird symbol, Renaissance looking thing for, I don't really know how to describe it, but this little symbol, okay? And it's above, what's the use in trying, okay? Or love was out to get me, depending on what verse you're on, and depending if you're doing the repeat. There's a sign right up there. It's clear as daylight, you'll see it. You just skip back to there. And then when you see the Coda sign, if you go back to the end of the chorus, it says to Coda, there's like a little compass, then that just takes you to the end. And of course, if you listen to my tutorial, you'll kind of hear how I skip from one part to the next and you hear the whole entire song, okay? All right, so here's the Coda. I really don't remember how the original song goes, but take as many repetitions as you want and just fade out. If you don't know how to fade out, listen to the video. I show you one way to do it. Okay. All right. So listen to this part. The left hand, it's clearly you can hear it's the same as the chorus, the little accompaniment, right? So we're just gonna focus on the right hand and then hands together. Okay. This is another reason why you do small sections at a time and then hands separate, because sometimes you don't need to do, you know, left hand, right hand, like religiously, right? Sometimes you can skip the left hand like we're gonna do here. Sometimes you can skip the right hand. I haven't really shown you in this song, but some other music you come across, you might have that option, okay? So it's always really thinking every step when you're about to practice, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? If you question yourself like that, you can actually potentially save a lot of time with practice, which is also a really good goal, okay? Here's right hand. Skip that whole last part because it's basically the same thing, repeating and fading. Okay. All right. So we're just gonna practice up to there now. Let me show you in both hands, Coda. All right. To I'm in love. Okay. And we're gonna stop right there because it's all the same. The repeat and the fade. Okay. Here's both hands. That's about as much as you need to practice, okay? Let's try both hands. Ready, go. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. Remember to review these principles as much as possible. Don't go yet because some suggestions that I'm going to give you here is you want to, you know, maybe it's not totally necessary. Like if this is kind of, is either if it's out of your difficulty or if it's too easy for you, then make sure to check out a lot of my other lessons. I have stuff at every level, like beginning and easy and intermediate, some advanced here and there. There's a lot time consuming, so I don't do that as much. But you know, and I always take requests as well. So if you want to personally like learn your own song and me to show you, and maybe I can do one of these on a live lesson, you can always make that request, right? But make sure to check out all the other levels I have with these lessons as well. And then again, make sure to pick up the sheet music. And it's about just hammering these principles, like how to practice over and over and over again. You gotta be patient. You got to be a good student because sometimes it takes a lot of time. It just really depends on where you're at. Some people are slower, some people are faster. Myself, I'm a slow learner, nothing wrong with that. Just think of yourself as learning deeply instead of slowly, and just be patient. Some of my students really pick up on it really quick, and some of them, it's taking them anywhere from like maybe 3 months to like half a year to really understand these principles. And then even if you understand it, if you don't remember to review it, you might forget it because it happens over time. Like after maybe so-called amount of time, some of my students, you can call it like pride or confidence or cockiness, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes we forget to do these and we forget to practice this way. So it's always reviewing this until it's really like in the system of how you practice, okay? All right, but yeah, make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Share this video with people who would love to learn on piano as well. And then hope to see you guys on our next live streams. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comment section, okay? All right, see you guys for the next one.